Hello YouTube, and welcome to another video from me, Steve, and mad about Hoovers. And on this channel we really are mad about Hoovers. Now, a little bit of change to the subject to the last few videos I've been talking about. The Dyson's put away for now. We're going to do another review of a little vacuum cleaner that I've had for a little while. This one is actually a handheld machine, and featured on a video a few videos ago, one of my technical videos, and I said I'd do a review on it in the time to come. And it's actually this. This is my latest handheld machine. I've had quite a few of these over the years, and the majority of them have all been Black & Deckers. Now, the last Black & Decker that I had two of them. I had a wet and dry one and the dry one, and they were like these little dust busters, but unfortunately they suffered from what every single Black & Decker beforehand had suffered from, which was battery failure. In other words, no matter how long you charged it for, you turned it on and within half a minute or so it was pretty much running down and the battery was dying. And on the last couple that I had, they started doing that within 3 years of buying them. And quite frankly, I'd had enough of Black & Decker, because every single dustbuster I'd had, it was the batteries that were failing every time, and it was always within 5 years. So I was in Sainsbury's the one day doing my little bit of shopping that I did in there, and I usually go around and look at the bargains aisle, you know, the stuff that's on markdown. And one day I went in there and they had this handheld in there. It's a Vax. Now, I don't hold a very high opinion of Vax, to be honest. I've had a lot of problems with their machines in the past, and I was very sceptical about buying this, but when I saw, you know, it was only 40 quid that they were asking for this, so I thought, well, it's only 40 quid and I do need another handheld. If this lasts a year or so, then I'll be happy with that, knowing the reliability of these is not terribly wonderful. They're made in China, they're not that wonderful, and they can occasionally break down within the first year, and I've had machines that have been faulty within the first year, so it's happened before. But this effectively is the Air Cordless handheld. Okay, now this actual this little machine here originally would have come as part of a stick vacuum. Okay, it actually would have clamped, this part would have clamped onto the stick vacuum, and it would have had a floor head on and a longer handle on the back, and this part would have detached from it to become a handheld. But what Vax were doing, they were selling this machine separately from the actual stick vacuum. So originally, pardon the noise, the washing machine's on at the moment, it's just coming up to the end of the cycle, so I've got to get the washing done. This would have been more expensive than the £40. I think it was about £80 or so. I'm not exactly sure. They'd marked it down anyway, and I'm assuming that it was because it was the end of the line. These don't feature in the Argos book. I can't find it on there. It might have been on Vax's website a while ago. If you do come across one, then maybe my little review here will be helpful to decide whether you want to buy it or not. So, if I just angle the camera down onto the top here, and we will discuss the features of the machine. Right, it's on my little workbench now, as if it was a technical video. So what it is, it's it uses the what they call the lithium life battery. Now this battery, or a little bit bigger version of it, I think it's a little bit thicker than this, but this style of battery has been featuring a lot on the current Vax cordless machines, which are used as like upright vacuum cleaners, and they go on the front of the machine, and they are a lithium ion battery. Now, I don't know whether we can make out the label from that. It says that it's a 20-volt battery, and it's lithium ion, and where are we now? It's made in China. All Vaxes are made in China. I think this is. I'm pretty sure it's a smaller battery, because it doesn't actually. run for as long as I would have thought. On this machine it's about 20 minutes or so I get from it before it starts to run down. And on the battery it has 3 little lights here that when you press the bottom button, those light up. I don't know how well this camera's catching it, but yes, you can see that. It's basically a battery life indicator, and it fits on the charger like so. You can't charge the battery in the machine. You have to take it off the machine and you have to put it on the battery charger. So it comes with this charger, which I would normally store. I would normally store it just here on that little shelf there. That's where I keep it, because I use this a lot in the kitchen. It's for picking up spills on the worktops and down on the floor if I don't want to get the big cleaner out. So that there has got its little mains adapter that plugs in there, and a fairly long cable, but I normally have that just coiled up because obviously it's plugged in right next to it. And the battery goes on the charger much the same as it would for the Vax Air Cordless. So it clips on like so, and then you can see it start charging. So you've got the blue light comes on the charger base, and then the battery lights here start to cycle. And when they go off altogether, that means it's fully charged. Now it takes a few hours to charge up, so it's not the fastest at charging. Right, so when we take the battery out, we just need to press the top button with your finger here, and then lift it up from the top and bring it out. And then what we can do, let's just put that down there, is it slots onto the back of the machine, and here's the machine's there's the little thing off the back of the machine. So it's a model number H85 ACH 8D. Wattage is 120 watts, which is actually quite a good wattage for a handheld vacuum, and it's 20 volt DC, made in China. So it's actually, for a handheld vacuum, fairly powerful, and I was quite surprised how powerful it was. After a Black & Decker, the last one I had was a 9.6 volt, and it was a nickel metal hydride battery, and these nickel metal hydride batteries were what was suffering from being worn out every few years, and they wouldn't hold the charge. But I think lithium ion batteries, the technology in these means they are more durable. I think that they actually last a lot longer. Now, I've had a Philly shaver, okay, with a lithium ion battery there. That one there, I don't use these anymore now because I don't really shave with them, I use a beard trimmer. But that there I bought in 2004. And that there still holds its charge perfectly, as if it was the day I first bought it. So it seems that lithium ion batteries do have a longer life than the older style of nickel metal hydride ones, or nickel cadmium, which was the even older style. So that basically clips into the bottom of the machine. You engage your top lug first there, and then push the back of it down into the cleaner, and it clicks in. These little contacts here are for when you're using it on the stick vac. So obviously when you turn the handle on at the top, these controls turn the suction on. The on and off switch is just here, and it has the dirt cup release button there. On the bottom we have on the sides are the 2 air exhaust vents, and there are what looks to me like little foam filters on the inside of here. So we can remove the dust cup by just simply pressing that button and drawing it off like so. It's a little bit wobbly to me, the fit on that. It seems to rock from side to side a little bit. It's not reassuringly tight on there, because it just uses one tab here to secure it and one at the top. It doesn't use tabs on the side. And like most Vax machines, there's usually a little bit of play in there. It's the quality issue again, you know. It's made in China and it's made cheaply, you know what I mean. It's the same story with other Vaxes. Now some people might not agree, some people might think Vaxes are wonderful, but I've got a lot of experience with Vaxes. Now the filter is basically, it just pulls out of the case like this, and what we've got is basically a mesh filter. Now this is dirty because I do use this an awful lot. It's every day this thing gets used on the worktop. It gets crumbs off from around the toaster. It gets all the crumbs, breadcrumbs and everything. You know, the stuff that cat brings in that drops on the floor. I'll use it to pick that up. And well, you can see on here the amount of cat hair and everything on there. And it gets trapped on this this mesh filter here. And like other Vaxes, it uses a sponge filter, which is washable. So that simply pulls out of the housing there, and there you can see the filter, and that's pretty dirty, to be honest, because I don't wash this that often. Maybe like once every couple of months I'll actually wash this filter. Normally I'll just bang it out on the bin. So it doesn't tend to pass much dust through. So it's actually a fairly good filter, and it does seem to maintain its suction quite well. And again, there we can see all the fine dust inside that's got through the mesh. It's mainly fine dust that accumulates on that filter. So that just simply washes under the tap, and you dry it, and then you can push it back in to the housing all the way around. It can be a little bit sticky once it's been washed. The plastic becomes very squeaky and sticky to push in, but it does go in like so. And then we can push it back into here. Now this is the dirt container. I do find with this that no matter how much you try and empty it, the dirt always seems to get trapped in the bottom end here. That's hair in there from when I cut my hair in the bathroom, because I cut my own hair. So obviously I use this to clean all the hair up from the floor around the basin when I've cut my hair. And what normally can do is, if you wanted to clean that out, you'd have to get sort of a long brush in there to get down to clean that out. And I've washed this in water as well. But it does have two wires that run down the outside here. They run down through here to two contacts. That's basically for when it's used in the stick vac mode, because I believe those contacts go down to the revolving floor brush. But with this, it doesn't have it, obviously, so these are redundant on this machine. But you've still got to bear that in mind when you're washing it, that not really to get water in here, because it'll get accumulated in that outer section. So we push. It also inside there is like a little shutter, a rubber shutter that you can see it more from that end, so that when you're holding it downwards, the dirt doesn't all come dropping out of that chute there, basically. And I think it stops any smells coming out as well, but it doesn't really smell of anything. So we push our filter back in like there. It's got a rubber seal around the outside which seals with the outside of the casing. And then we push our power unit back on there. It comes with the crevice tool on the outside of there, like that. And to be honest, I use this all the time in the machine, because the actual here, the suction point, I don't find that to be very good on worktops. It can scratch things, you know, if I'm using it on here. So I'll normally have that plugged in the end, and I'll use it with that on, and it increases the concentration of the suction power as well. So when we turn it on, it is quite noisy, but you can feel a good amount of suction on the end of there. And there we have the battery level lights that say that it's got 2 bars left out of 3, and when that runs down to 1, it's time to charge it up again. So basically I find that it tends to run for about, just excuse the washing machine, it's finished its cycle. Okay, that's it. So I find it runs for about 20 minutes before that starts to flash up the 1 bar warning. So it does have a fairly long run time of 20 minutes. It only has 1 speed, which is on or off. You haven't got a boost or a high speed turbo function on it. It's just on or off, basically. So I would just go and pick it up, and I would just go around the worktop. Around around the floor, just underneath the units and the cupboards where the dirt accumulates, and then I would bring my normal cleaner in here as well and supplement this with that, you know, because this can't really get carpets cleaned. It's just for picking up spills really, and the odd crumbs. So what I'll do, I will sprinkle some rice and porridge oats and things down on here, and you can see it picking it up. You know, much the same as I do with my other vacuum cleaners. So say you just heard, we just spilt some porridge on there. We knocked something off and spilt something. Let's put some little rice particles down on there, and we'll put some salt down as well. You know, some to represent the more finer particles, which is the sort of things I would normally, you know, you spill things like that on there. You know, we could spill a little bit of coffee on there as well. Just put a little bit of that down. Because I often get coffee spilt over by the kettle, so I'll use it to pick that up. So, I think the camera can focus in on that, can't it? Yes, it's got that fairly well. So let's see how well it picks it all up then. So there we can see the sort of cyclonic action that it has with the dirt spinning round inside. But what we normally find is that the fine dust particles there, just basically as you'd expect, they get stuck to the filter. And after a short period of time, you know, if you were picking up fine dust like that, what would happen is that the filter would get blocked up, and you would quite rapidly lose the suction off the end. So, you know, if you're going to pick up flour with it, then that would clog the filter quite quickly. So already now what we could do is just give that a tap, and that basically removes all the fine dust off the filter again. But it doesn't take long for it to all stick back to it. So, and then what we do when we want to empty it is we would take it to the bin. There's the bin. Let me just raise that camera up slightly so that we can see that. And then I would take this off like so, drop out the filter, dump it in the bin, and knock out the filter there. And that's all there is to it really. You know, so it's your basic bagless thing there, so it's easy enough to empty. And then we'll just stick the top back on there like that. And it's back to full suction again pretty much. I mean, that's with the filter. I haven't washed that for the last month, so I need to do that again really. But it's still got a good amount of suction on. So it's not bad at all. You know, it does what I want it to do. It's what I bought it for, basically, to get the spills up in the kitchen. It's nothing fancy, but I think, how long have I had it for now? I think I've had it for about a year, I think. So, you know, it's not been bad. You know, for a Vax, it's mediocre quality, made in China, as I say, but time will tell whether it still works in 5 years. I don't know. If it does, I'll be very, very surprised. I'll be very lucky if it does. But there we go. You might be able to get these on eBay now, I'm not sure. But if you do get one, it's worth buying if you can get it for a reasonable price. If you can get it for about 10-20 quid, I'd go and buy one. But bear in mind that they probably ain't going to last longer than 5 years. I'm not sure about the reliability of these batteries, and if they have a maximum amount of charge cycles that you can put them through before they start having their ability to hold charge will drop. I'm not sure. But there we go, that's the little review there of the Vax Air Cordless Handheld. And I'll see you on the next review. Hello YouTube, and welcome to another video from me, Steve, and mad about Hoovers. And on this channel we really are mad about Hoovers. Now, a little bit of change to the subject to the last few videos I've been talking about. The Dyson's put away for now. We're going to do another review of a little vacuum cleaner that I've had for a little while. This one is actually a handheld machine, and it featured on a video a few videos ago, one of my technical videos, and I said I'd do a review on it in the time to come. And it's actually this. This is my latest handheld machine. I've had quite a few of these over the years, and the majority of them have all been Black & Deckers. Now, the last Black & Decker that I had two of them. I had a wet and dry one and a dry one, and they were like these little dust busters, but unfortunately they suffered from what every single Black & Decker beforehand had suffered from, which was battery failure. In other words, no matter how long you charged it for, you turned it on and within half a minute or so it was pretty much running down and the battery was dying. And on the last couple that I had, they started doing that within 3 years of buying them. And quite frankly, I'd had enough of Black & Decker, because every single dustbuster I'd had, it was the batteries that were failing every time, and it was always within 5 years. So I was in Sainsbury's the one day doing my little bit of shopping that I did in there, and I usually go around and look at the bargains aisle, you know, the stuff that's on markdown. And one day I went in there and they had this handheld in there. It's a Vax. Now, I don't hold a very high opinion of Vax, to be honest. I've had a lot of problems with their machines in the past, and I was very sceptical about